Every great achievement begins with a decision. Not a decision to be safe, but a decision to be brave. There's a simple truth you already know deep down. If you're not risking, you're not growing. And if you're not growing, you're not really living. You're just existing. Think of every hero, every leader, every icon you admire. What do they have in common? They took the leap. They made the call. They stepped into the unknown. Why? Because they understood this truth. No risk, no story. There's a unique emotional space where discomfort and excitement collide. And that's often the first sign you're on the brink of something meaningful. It's that flutter in your stomach, the racing thoughts at night, and the quiet whisper inside that says, this could be big. This feeling isn't anxiety alone, and it's not pure joy either. It's the tension of stepping outside the familiar. Your routine wants to pull you back. Your comfort zone begs you to stay, but something greater is calling you forward. And that's where transformation begins. When you're about to take a risk that could redefine your life, it's completely natural to feel unsure, exposed, even afraid. But alongside that fear is a subtle current of energy, because part of you knows this risk matters. That discomfort is a signal. That means you're not stuck anymore. You're moving. And excitement with discomfort is the emotional compass that points to growth. Most people wait until they feel ready before they move, but readiness is a myth. The truth is, you often feel most alive when you're walking into a moment that challenges your limits, when the stakes are high and the outcome is uncertain. That is the birthplace of every powerful story, every defining moment, every breakthrough. You're not meant to stay where it's easy. You're meant to step into moments that stretch your capabilities, test your faith, and invite you to become more. So when you feel that mix of nerves and thrill, don't retreat, lean in. That feeling isn't a warning. It's a green light. It's the emotional proof that you're not just dreaming anymore, you're doing something worth remembering. Whenever you decide to pursue something bold, something that matters, resistance shows up like clockwork. Sometimes it wears the face of other people, friends, family, coworkers, even mentors who often with good intentions question your decision. They might say things like, "Are you sure that's a good idea?" Or "What if it doesn't work?" Or the ever familiar, "Maybe you should wait." But what they're really saying is stay safe. Make no mistake, this isn't about your limitations, it's about their comfort zones. When you challenge your limits, you unintentionally challenge theirs. Most people aren't used to watching someone chase a vision that doesn't come with guarantees. So when you go after something big, expect friction. Not because you're doing the wrong thing, but because you're doing the uncommon thing. Resistance from others is a sign you're walking a path most people are too afraid to try. And that's exactly why it's the right path for you. But the most dangerous form of resistance doesn't come from the outside, it comes from within. It's the quiet voice in your head that whispers, "You're not good enough. Who do you think you are?" Or "What if you fail and everyone sees?" This inner critic doesn't care about your dreams. It only cares about your safety. It wants you to stay small, predictable, and unchallenged. And the tragic part? Most people listen to that voice and let it dictate the course of their entire life. But here's the truth. That voice isn't your enemy, it's your proof. It means you're stepping beyond what you've done before. Internal resistance is the friction between who you are now and who you're becoming. The key is not to silence the fear, but to act in spite of it. You must learn to recognize resistance for what it is. Not a stop sign, but a test. And passing that test is what gives your story its power. Uncertainty is the birthplace of possibility. When you're standing at the edge of a decision that could change your life, the truth is, you won't have all the answers. You won't know how things will turn out, and that's what makes it real. It's easy to take action when the path is clear and guaranteed, but real growth happens in the fog, when you move forward even though you can't see exactly where you're going. This is the space where most people hesitate. They wait for perfect timing, perfect conditions, perfect clarity, and while they wait, the opportunity passes. The people who create meaningful stories in life understand this one principle. Certainty is a luxury, but progress is a choice. If you require absolute certainty before you act, you'll be stuck in place forever. You don't need to see the whole staircase to take the first step. The truth is, every major achievement begins with some level of doubt, but those who win are the ones who move forward anyway. The fear of the unknown is deeply wired into us. It's human nature to want control, to crave predictable outcomes. But control is often just an illusion, and the cost of chasing it is missing out on everything that could be. Some of the most life-changing opportunities will not come with a roadmap. You won't know if you'll succeed, you won't know if people will support you, you won't know if the risk will pay off, but you will know this: if you don't try, you'll never know. Living with uncertainty isn't weakness, it's strength. It means you're brave enough to show up when there are no guarantees. And ironically, it's in those uncertain moments that you often find the greatest clarity, because when the outcome is unclear, you're forced to rely on something deeper: your vision, your purpose, your willingness to grow. So if you're unsure of the outcome, good. That means you're right where you need to be. Risk becomes real when you have something on the line, something you care about. That's what separates wishful thinking from true commitment. You can't casually pursue a dream and expect it to reward you fully. At some point, you have to put skin in the game. You have to decide that the goal matters enough to cost you something: time, money, your image, maybe even relationships. Investing your time means sacrificing comfort and convenience. It means choosing your vision over distractions, your purpose over procrastination. While others are binge-watching, scrolling, and waiting for inspiration, you're building. Time is the one resource you can never get back, and when you devote it to something that may or may not work, you're saying to the world, "I believe this is worth it." That kind of faith isn't foolish, it's foundational. Then there's the financial risk, often the loudest form of resistance. Whether it's putting your own money into a business, a course, a project, or a passion that hasn't paid you yet, investing financially in your future is an act of courage. It says, "I believe in the return before I see it." That's not reckless, it's responsibility, because when you spend money on your dreams instead of your distractions, you're aligning your actions with your ambition. The people who succeed aren't always the smartest. They're just the ones willing to bet on themselves, even when no one else will. Money spent on growth is never wasted. It plants seeds that pay off in compound interest, not just financially, but mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. But you'll never reap the harvest if you're too afraid to sow. And finally, perhaps the riskiest of all, your reputation. Going after something bold often means people won't get it. Some will doubt you, some will laugh, you may look foolish, you may fail in public. That's why most people keep their dreams hidden. Not because they don't believe in them, but because they're afraid of what people will think. But you must understand this. Every person who's ever accomplished something meaningful has had to risk being misunderstood. They chose to value purpose over popularity. Your reputation might take a hit in the short term. People might question your choices. But the longer you stay true to your path, the more your results will speak louder than their opinions. Eventually, the same people who once doubted you will either ask how you did it or wish they had your courage. When you invest your time, money, or reputation, you're not just chasing a dream. You're proving to yourself and to the world that the dream is worth everything. Most people want extraordinary results, but only if they can get them by doing ordinary things. They want success without sacrifice, growth without discomfort, rewards without effort. That's why the crowd always looks the same, stuck, distracted, and playing by the same rules that keep them average. But the moment you choose to step outside that system, to do the thing most people avoid, you immediately separate yourself. You show up early, you stay late. You make the extra call, you study while others scroll. You build while others complain. You face rejection, take the hits, and keep moving forward. Why? Because you understand something the masses don't. The top 5% live differently because they think differently, and they act differently. Doing what others won't means living with intention in a world of excuses. It's not about being better than anyone else. It's about becoming better than you used to be. And let's be clear, doing what others won't is rarely glamorous in the moment. It's uncomfortable, it's inconvenient, it's lonely. Sometimes you'll feel misunderstood, out of sync with your peers, even doubted by those closest to you. But that's part of the price, because the crowd will always mock what it doesn't understand until it can't ignore the results. And when those results start to show, when your health, income, skills, or freedom begin to rise, people will call you lucky. Perhaps they did, but luck had nothing to do with it. You chose discipline over distraction. You chose growth over comfort. You chose the hard path. the one they refuse to walk. And now, they're watching you reach places they never will, not because they couldn't, but because they wouldn't. The difference between average and extraordinary is often just the decision to do what others avoid. Every great story is built on that decision. Whether you're an entrepreneur launching an unproven idea, an artist sharing your truth, a student pushing past expectations, or someone rebuilding your life from scratch, when you take the path that most people fear, you're writing a story that most people will never get to tell. You become the example that others didn't know was possible. You remind people, not with words, but with action, that a different life can be created with boldness and effort. The moment you stop asking what's easy and start asking what's necessary, you begin to transform. Because while others wait for permission, for certainty, for comfort, you move. And that's what makes all the difference. There's a special kind of fear that comes with putting yourself out there. Not just the fear of failing, but the fear of failing where others can see it. It's one thing to fall in private. It's another to fall while the world is watching. That's what keeps most people on the sidelines. They don't avoid risk because they doubt the reward. They avoid it because they can't bear the thought of embarrassment, of being judged, of hearing "I told you so." But here's the truth no one likes to say out loud. Every success story you admire was built on public failure. Every entrepreneur who made it was once just a name no one believed in. Every performer, every innovator, every leader, they all stumbled, fell short, got laughed at, ignored, or criticized, but they kept going. Not because they were fearless, but because they cared more about the mission than the mockery. Public failure is not the enemy. In fact, it's one of the greatest teachers and fastest catalysts for growth you'll ever encounter. It strips away ego, it exposes weakness, and it forces you to confront the uncomfortable truth. Either you let failure define you, or you use it to refine you. When you fail in front of others, you gain a superpower, resilience. You learn how to keep going when the applause stops. You discover that the opinions of people who aren't in the arena hold far less weight than you once thought. Most people will never experience that kind of clarity because they never put themselves in a position to fall. They stay invisible because visibility carries risk. But here's the irony. You can protect your pride or you can pursue your purpose, but not both. And the beautiful twist? Public failure has a short memory. The people who laugh today will forget by tomorrow. But you, if you learn, adapt, and persist, will turn that moment of failure into a chapter of victory. And when you succeed, the same audience that once watched you fall will now watch you rise. That's the power of owning your journey, scars and all. Because when you're willing to fail publicly, you're also positioned to win publicly. The bigger the risk, the louder the story, and the more people it will reach. So don't fear the fall, fear the life where you never leapt. Because in the end, people don't remember those who played it safe. They remember those who had the guts to show up, take a shot, and keep going, even when they stumble. At some point, every meaningful journey demands a choice. Do you do what's easy, or do you do what's right? That's the line that separates convenience from courage. Convenience is tempting. It's fast, safe, and familiar. It's the route most people choose because it demands the least in the moment. It's staying quiet instead of speaking your truth. It's settling instead of striving. It's waiting for the perfect moment, which never comes, instead of creating your own. But courage? Courage costs something. It asks more of you. It requires you to stand up when it would be easier to sit down, to keep going when it would be easier to walk away, and to trust in yourself when the outcome is uncertain. Courage is inconvenient by nature, but it's also the birthplace of every breakthrough you will ever experience. People often confuse convenience with comfort, but they're not the same. Convenience can make life easier, but too much of it leads to stagnation, mediocrity, and regret. The pursuit of comfort at all costs is the fastest way to a life of missed potential. Courage, on the other hand, rarely feels good in the moment. It feels risky, vulnerable, exposed. But over time, it builds something much more powerful: confidence. When you choose courage, you're saying, I refuse to live beneath my potential. I refuse to let fear dictate my decisions. That decision might not pay off immediately. In fact, it might make things harder before they get better. But unlike convenience, which fades quickly, Courage creates lasting change. Every time you act with courage, you reinforce your identity as someone who moves with purpose, not passivity. And here's the most empowering truth of all. Courage is a choice, not a trait. It's not reserved for the fearless. It's practiced by those who feel the fear and act anyway. Every act of courage builds momentum. Every time you choose to speak up, take the risk, show up fully, even when it's hard, you make it easier to do it again next time. And eventually, the courageous path becomes your default. That's how legacies are built. Not by chasing what's easy, but by committing to what's meaningful. So when the choice is between what's safe and what's right, choose the path that stretches you. Because convenience may preserve your comfort, but only courage will write your story.